Oh. 5:13, 1:31. We're in front of police station. Alright, we're going to New York. I'll call you, Bodycam. Stop running! Alright. Okay. I didn't do anything wrong. Can I call my mom? I didn't do.
Keep your hand out of the bag, put it down, put the phone down, and give me an ID.
An ID? For what, sir? Thanks,
Okay,
sir.
don't argue with me. Just give me your ID and we'll figure this out.
I didn't steal anything, sir. I'm on the phone with my mom. I didn't do anything wrong.
Your ID.
I don't have an ID, sir. Mom, can you come to first place right here? Because I'm being harassed by an officer. What is your name, sir?
Sit down.
What's your name?
12, you got a 94 round?
Yes, Mom. Yeah, because I'm being harassed. I literally just came out of first watch and now officer adjusted. What is your badge number, sir?
The date was October 14, 2025, and the time was exactly 11:30 a.m. In the heart of the city, the sun was high, casting sharp clinical shadows across the pavement in front of a bustling Target entrance. Standing near a brick pillar was Aria. To a casual observer, she was the picture of focused ambition, a top-tier law student dressed in a professional black dress, clutching a leather-bound notebook and talking animatedly to her mother on a hands-free headset. She was discussing her upcoming seminar on civil liberties, unaware that she was about to become the most important case study of her own career. Aria was a woman who lived by the letter of the law. She spent her nights dissecting the Fourth Amendment and her days advocating for those who had been silenced by the system. But as a local patrol cruiser hopped the curb, tires screeching against the concrete just feet from where she stood, her academic world and the harsh reality of the street collided. The officer who stepped out of the vehicle didn't see a future prosecutor or a grieving sister. He saw a profile. He didn't offer a greeting or a request for information. His first words were a barked command of authority that cut through Aria's phone conversation like a blade. "Hang up the phone and don't move," the officer commanded, his hand hovering over his holster. "You match the description of a suspect who just hit this store for over $1,000 in high-end electronics." Aria didn't drop the phone. Instead, she took a steady breath, her training as a litigator kicking in even through the surge of adrenaline. "Officer," she began, her voice calm but layered with a steeliness that caught him off guard. "Officer, I have been standing at this exact coordinate for the last 20 minutes. I am a law student and I am currently documenting my location. Do you have a specific, articulable description of the suspect, or are you detaining me based on a generalized racial profile?" The officer's face darkened to a deep crimson. He wasn't looking for a legal debate, and he certainly wasn't used to a citizen citing case law before he could even finish his opening sentence. He mocked her instantly. "Oh, we have a jailhouse lawyer here, do we? Using big words doesn't change the fact that you're coming with me." He stepped into Aria's personal space, a tactic designed to trigger a reaction. It is terrifying how quickly a peaceful morning can turn into a battle for your basic rights. If you believe that a badge should never be used as an excuse for profiling, hit that subscribe button right now. Your support allows us to keep bringing these stories of accountability to the world. The situation took a turn for the worse when the officer reached out and grabbed Aria's forearm. The moment his fingers clamped down on her skin, something inside Aria broke. This wasn't just a traffic stop or a pedestrian check, it was a trigger. 2 years prior, Aria's brother had been killed in a high-profile police encounter just 3 blocks from this very spot. The trauma was not a memory, it was a living, breathing monster. As the officer's grip tightened, Aria's rational mind vanished. She didn't see a Target entrance anymore. She saw her brother's final moments. In a state of pure trauma-induced panic, Aria did the one thing her legal mind told her never to do. She ran. She bolted away from the officer, her black dress fluttering as she pushed through the crowd. She wasn't running for the law. She was running for her life, convinced that if she stayed, she would meet the same fate as her brother. The chase was frantic. Aria sprinted through the city streets, her heart hammering against her ribs so loudly it drowned out the officer's shouts. In a bizarre twist of fate, her escape route led her directly toward a set of large glass doors she thought led to a public library. She burst through the doors, looking for witnesses, only to realize with a sickening jolt that she had run directly into the lobby of the city police headquarters. She had sprinted straight into the lion's den. The pursuing officer tackled her from behind, right in front of the front desk. The impact was brutal, sending Aria's phone skidding across the lobby floor. As more officers flooded the area, the arresting officer pinned her down with a knee to her back, mocking her legal expertise as he slammed the handcuffs onto her wrists. By 11:45 a.m., Aria was being dragged toward a holding cell. But even as her face was pressed against the cold floor, she looked at the lobby's 360-degree security cameras and felt a flicker of hope. She knew the truth was being recorded. By 12:15 p.m., the precinct was buzzing with the news of the law student who thought she could outrun a motor cop. The arresting officer sat at his desk, filing a report that painted Aria as a violent, non-compliant suspect who had obstructed a felony investigation. He felt invincible. He had the badge, he had the arrest, and he had the narrative. But Aria, sitting in a cold, dim cell, had regained her composure. The panic had been replaced by a cold, academic fury. She knew the law was on her side, and she knew that every second she spent in that cell was adding another zero to the check the city would eventually have to write. The justice payout began to materialize much faster than the officer anticipated. 20 minutes into her detention, the Target store manager arrived at the precinct's front desk. He wasn't there to sign a complaint. He was there to express his outrage. He had reviewed his store's egress footage and saw that Aria had never even entered the building. He presented a digital time-stamped clip showing Aria standing outside on her phone for the entire duration of the theft. The real suspect, a woman wearing entirely different clothing, had been captured exiting a side door while the officer was busy harassing Aria at the front. The mood in the station shifted from mockery to panic. When the police chief viewed the officer's body cam footage, the situation went from bad to catastrophic. The audio captured the officer making derogatory remarks about Aria's deceased brother and laughing about how her law degree wouldn't save her from a night in jail. It was a textbook case of malicious indifference and racial profiling. The officer had ignored a mountain of exculpatory evidence because he wanted to teach a lesson to a woman who dared to know her rights. Aria refused to accept a quiet settlement or a simple apology. Represented by the university's top civil rights clinic, she filed a massive federal lawsuit under Section 1983. The discovery phase was a bloodbath for the department. They found that this specific officer had been the subject of 5 previous pretextual stop complaints, all of which had been swept under the rug. During the trial, Aria was the star witness. She sat on the stand wearing the same black dress she had been arrested in and delivered a testimony that was described by journalists as a masterclass in legal brilliance. She didn't just talk about the fear, she talked about the law. She explained how the officer had failed every single reasonable suspicion test established by the Supreme Court. She turned the courtroom into a classroom, and the officer was her unwilling student. A $770,000 settlement is a massive win, but the real victory was seeing a corrupt officer lose the power to hurt anyone else. If you want to see more people like Aria standing up for the truth, please share this video and subscribe. Every new member of this community helps us hold the system to a higher standard. The jury returned their verdict in less than 2 hours. They awarded Aria $770,000 in compensatory and punitive damages. The judge, in a rare move, added a scathing post-trial memorandum calling the officer's actions an affront to the uniform. The officer was immediately terminated and permanently decertified, meaning he could never work in law enforcement again. Aria didn't spend the money on luxury. She used the $770,000 to pay off her student loans and established the Justice for the Innocent Legal Fund, a nonprofit designed to provide high-level legal defense for victims of racial profiling, named in memory of her brother. She proved that while a badge may carry power, the law, when wielded by someone who refuses to be intimidated, is the ultimate equalizer. Aria graduated top of her class, not just as a student of the law, but as a defender of it.